Well, good afternoon, everyone. Just want to say, how's everyone doing? My name is Boy Pedro Ciabella here from NETCB. Just want to find out if everyone is all right. And yeah, moving forward, I think everybody's having a pretty good Thursday afternoon. We know this is a not very convenient time, but we hope that this will give you a bit of knowledge and wisdom to chew on, for your organization, and hopefully you get better and better over time. Along with myself, I'm not alone. I'm with my managing director from NetCB, Curvis Burgers, and of course, Justin Foxcroft, our sales director, and thereafter, Hendrik De Bruin, our technical specialist. And then after that, we have all the way from Germany, Mr. Klaus Ring, who will be conducting the SEP presentation for you guys. Without any further ado, please take it away. Klaus, are you there?
Here, I'm here. Hello.
Excellent.
I hope that everybody can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, great. So I'm going to share my screen, and well, yes, here I am. My screen, this one. Share, and maybe you can give me a little bit of feedback if you can see my screen. Everything's fine?
Yes, we can, Klaus.
Okay, perfect. So my name is Klaus Riem. Yes, you can see my face also here on the slide. I'm a pre-sales engineer at a backup software company, SEP, from Germany. And I really have the pleasure to talk to you today in this session with the title, How to Transition from On-Premise to Cloud Backup. And well, everybody of you know that cloud is kind of a hype topic, but it's definitely not an easy topic. It's a difficult topic. And if someone asks, are you able to do backup of cloud? Then the answer definitely is not yes or no. You always know that it's depending on your environment and the configuration, your setup, and the answer is always it depends. And in this presentation, I have the pleasure to take you on a journey from on-premise to cloud, total backup, and bring some light into this topic and what is possible with our backup software, SEP Sesam, in these kind of configurations. I know that some of you are already SEP users, and I think you will find very interesting information what you can do with our software if you change your configuration and include the cloud into your infrastructure. But there will also be interesting teasers, I would say, for customers who are using other backup software, and they can easily compare functionalities. So let's start with the first picture, and I hope that this picture everybody knows, because it's a pretty famous picture and it shows a little bit the transition from the on-premise configuration where you have everything on-premise, the hardware, the middleware, and the applications. And in the first step, you use cloud providers only for your infrastructure. It's infrastructure as a service, so that you get some virtual machines and you do not have any local hardware, but you have to take care of the middleware, the operating system, and the application. The next step is that you book platform as a service. Costs a little bit more, but the provider will also take care of the operating system. So you will book a Linux machine or a Microsoft machine, and then you only have to take care of the applications. And in the last step, everything is provided from the service provider. And some examples of these full service providers and applications is Salesforce or Office 365, Dynamics 365. These are all examples. There are also Google services available, and you know them. There are a lot of services out there, which might be SAP and other things. But there is another let's say, trend at the market, another dimension, which also starts from on-premise, and then they have new requirements in a company, so that the IT department has to provide services to other departments, like the financial department or development or whatever, and they act like an internal cloud service provider. This is called a private cloud. Then we have to change to the public cloud if they have the confidence and rely on Amazon or Microsoft Azure and other public cloud providers. Then they can also use it in a hybrid cloud. They use private cloud for critical data, very, very sensitive data they do not want to give out outside of the company, and they use the public cloud for web services or whatever data which is public anyway. And they can walk to the multi-cloud. That's the latest trend, because you do not want to rely and be depending on just one cloud provider. You use several cloud providers, you migrate from one cloud to another cloud, and all these kind of things. So this is another trend, and this is kind of a agenda for, and a guideline for this presentation I will hold today. So just to give a little starting point with our software, SAP Sesam. If you run completely on-premise, you have your data center, your infrastructure, and whatever you need for applications and for the backup infrastructure. You need a backup server somewhere. We don't care if it's a Linux or a Windows machine. We support all and everything. If it's a VM, if it's a physical cluster, we support every basis. And the backup server can write to some sort of media. Any kind of media which is available in the operating system can be used by the backup server as a backup target. And then you have the different clients with the operating systems. We really have a huge support matrix with the databases, with the applications, different hypervisors. Could be VMware, but could be also Red Hat, KVM, Citrix, and you name them. There are lots out there at the market. We have the RDS, which is our remote device server. It's kind of a media agent, media server. In other software, it's called Networker. It's a storage node. Commvault, it's a media server, and so on. But it's acting as a proxy of the backup server, controlled by the backup server, and can write to its own media or shared media, and use the infrastructure of the network and so on. So this is what happens in the data center. If you have branch offices, then you might introduce deduplication. We have deduplication in our software, integrated in our software. And you can use this for source-side deduplication. For the bigger ones, you have your backup data on-premise in the branch office. You can replicate the data in deduplicated form to the data center, or you can have everything in your branch office out there, including the migration to tape for compliance reasons, and it's all controlled by the backup server. And now you change the configuration, the setup, to include the cloud somehow into this configuration. And we will talk about how we can use the cloud in these configurations. And as a basis for using the cloud, we need deduplication almost everywhere. That's why I have to talk about deduplication. And as you might note, we have software deduplication integrated in our software. We have the patents. We have developed this very efficient algorithm on our own. It's working inline, in memory, deduplicating the data before storing the data to disk storage. It's called SI3 deduplication. It's based on variable block length. Very important is that it's a global deduplication, which means if you have saved a block already, then this block will not save again on the storage. So if you have a virtual machine based on Windows 10 and you have backed up this virtual machine, and you back up a second virtual machine also with Windows 10, I can promise you, you have a very high deduplication ratio because it's global deduplication. And some of you might have knowledge about Veeam, and if you compare the deduplication feature of Veeam, you might know that Veeam is starting all over again with the deduplication from VM to VM, and so the dedup ratio will not be better than 3:1 or 4:1 because you always start again from scratch. We have global deduplication and therefore much higher deduplication ratio. And the options you have for deduplication is the target side option, because then the backup server or the RDS is doing the deduplication work before it writes the data to the disk storage. You have the source side deduplication on the client. There will be the deduplication to reduce the amount of data you transport over the wire, because you very often have a WAN connection from the branch office. And this is also the case if you talk to the cloud. Very often it's only a WAN connection with only low bandwidth, and then you need to deduplicate the data before you transport it over the wire. And then you have the replication. If the data is saved in deduplicated format on your disk storage locally, then you can replicate to another data center for disaster recovery purposes and so on. So that's the software deduplication. However, it's also possible as an alternative to use hardware deduplication. There are a lot of hardware deduplication appliances out there. There's the HPE Store Ones. You can use it via LAN as an NFS target or as a VTL or a fiber channel. And this is also possible, no matter if it's a Quantum DXI, if it's a Fujitsu CS800, if it's a data domain, it's all the same. However, I'm mentioning the HPE Store Ones because we have integrated in our software the Catalyst interface. And with this Catalyst interface, you have additional options to do the deduplication work, not only on the appliance. You can do the deduplication work on the backup server, on the RDS, or even on the client. So if you have a database server somewhere, like an SAP server, and you can directly use the Catalyst interface to deduplicate the data on the database server and write to the Store Ones. It's certified by HPE. It's also global deduplication. It's a pretty similar concept. And we have the possibility to do a Catalyst backup and recovery. That's the matching functionality with the target side dedup. We have the Catalyst bandwidth optimized. These are HPE terms, of course, which is a source side backup. And we have the Catalyst copy, which is the replication. So why is this necessary? How can you use this for integrating cloud into your concept? And then it's kind of a hybrid cloud, because you bring data from your on-premise backup infrastructure to the cloud. And with our own deduplication, it's based on our own SI3 deduplication algorithm. You can configure S3 replication so that you have a copy of your data in the cloud somewhere. Everything that has an S3 interface. Of course, this is AWS, but you can use some gateways. There are also gateways available for Azure, or you can also use local object storage if it's kind of a Ceph-based local objects like SUSE Enterprise Storage, which has an S3 interface. You can use this local object storage. Yeah, and it's implemented very cost efficient, because we really reduce the number of S3 commands in the API, because there are some cloud offerings where you have to pay according to the amount, the number of S3 calls. And we really have reduced these S3 calls so that it's very, very cost efficient. Yeah, and it's for disaster recovery of your local dedup storage. If this is somehow gone, or you have different retention policies and so on, then the SAP system will automatically restore the data from the cloud to your local dedup storage. So you definitely need local storage, and this happens in the background automatically, and then it's doing a restore from this local storage. And you can have different retention times for the dedup data on the local storage compared with the dedup data somewhere in the cloud. Now there are also possibilities with these HPE Store Once hardware, and there's an interface. It's called Catalyst Cloud Bank Storage. This is based on the HPE Store Once, of course, and this has also a cloud interface to bring the deduplicated data into the cloud via S3 or Microsoft Azure Scality. These are the interfaces which are supported from here, and it works pretty similar to our integrated deduplication mechanism, and it's fairly easy to be configured in SAP CSAM. I will show this in the live demonstration later on, how this and this is configured. Then you have the option to work with an MSP, a managed service provider. Not everybody is willing to give all his data to a public cloud provider. And there are a lot of partners of us who are acting as MSPs. They have their own data center and they provide a backup server maybe, and every customer is deduplicating its data and replicating to the MSP with a shared backup server for every customer. Or there are other possibilities, because you can also have the backup server at the customer and the RDS on the MSP side. There could be shared, dedicated, mixed infrastructure, and it could also be that some MSPs only manage the complete infrastructure on site of a customer. And then there are some technical requirements, I would say, or features which are helpful for the MSPs. First of all, we rely on a VPN connection from the customer to the MSP data center. Then we need the multi-tenancy functionality. This is based on authentication and authorization, which means we have a web UI, a self-service restore assistant, so that customer A can get a login, and with this login you log into this web UI in this restore assistant, and then this customer can restore its own data, and this customer can restore its own data, and therefore you need the authorization and authentication, so that we know it's really customer B who has the access, and which data he has the permission to do a restore. Yeah, so I will also show this configuration a little bit in the live demonstration. And for MSPs, we have different licensing models, because normally they charge the customers per month on a pay-per-use basis, on capacity of data or unit based, and there are different MSP licensing models available for this kind of configurations. And then the next step is that a customer is running everything in the cloud, not only a little copy of the backup data. They have their application in the cloud, they have their backup infrastructure in the cloud, the storage, the servers, and they have installed SAP backup server in the cloud. Yeah, everything, the complete infrastructure. They have no own data center, and we have customers, reference customers, who have exactly this configuration. And you should know that we have no direct access to S3. That's something we talk about if we implement this for the future. But you can use EBS as a storage, as a backup target for your backup data. And together with our SI3 deduplication, you can really save a lot of EBS storage and reduce the amount of disk storage you need as backup target in the AWS example here. And one customer reference who is doing exactly this is from Italy. It's the Centro Medico Sant'Agostino. And if we look at this reference case, they have the SAP Business One based on HANA running in AWS. They have installed the SAP backup server in AWS, and they use the EBS target with SAP deduplication. And they are very, very satisfied with this configuration. And as you can see, the Centro Medico San Agostinos, they have a pretty interesting concept because they work together with supermarket chains. So with every supermarket, they have an office where you can walk in and have some treatments after or before you go into the supermarket. And it's very successful in Italy currently. Very interesting, I think. Yeah, so we also have a YouTube video available. The link is over here. And in this YouTube video, you can see, and it's explained in detail how you can set up in AWS a data store with deduplication, how you can optimize it, performance optimization, and so on. It's all explained in this 20 minutes video, which is available from YouTube. Okay, so on the Azure side, you can do similar things. And we also have customers running completely in Azure. And that's nothing special. However, you should know that we do not have direct access to blob storage, but in Azure, there are a lot of other possibilities. For instance, they have the managed disks, which is the equivalent to the EBS storage on AWS. It's called EBS. And in Azure, it's called managed disks. So you can use that. But in Azure, they have a lot more templates you can use. They have NetApp templates you can book in Azure, in your Azure console, in the web UI. And you can use a NetApp filer as a backup target. That's possible. Or what's also possible, you can book an HPE Store Once deduplication appliance as a VSA, as a virtual appliance in Azure, and use this one as a backup target. So I think this is also pretty cool. And this all together is necessary, for instance, or as an example, with SAP on Azure, which is a pretty hot topic, running SAP in Azure, running SAP on NetApp in Azure, and use another NetApp as a backup target, and all these kind of concepts you can use directly in Azure. Yeah, and I think there are a lot of possibilities to really set up cool concepts if you have everything in Azure. So that's almost the end of the journey into the cloud if you have everything in the cloud. However, you still have the last step, which is if you use a cloud application service like Office 365, like Dynamics, like G Suite or Salesforce. And we as SAP also have a possibility to do a backup of these application services. And it's a full cloud to cloud backup. You don't need any local storage. You don't need to take care of any bandwidth or network problems, because you only log into a web portal. You configure your maybe Office 365 connector, the admin connector, to be able to do a snapshot-based incremental backup of your Office 365 data, and the data will be copied to a separate data center. And I know from some of our competitors, they have concepts to do a backup of Office 365 to the Microsoft Azure cloud. And if I would do a backup of Office 365, I would never do a backup into Microsoft Azure cloud, because if there's a problem with the Microsoft cloud, then it will affect Office 365 as well as Azure, I guess. And so you need a separate data center. And it's very easy to handle. And we show this in the live demonstration as well a little bit. Yeah, you have unlimited retention with all your data, incremental snapshots per day. You can create granular roles and permissions to have access to the data, or only have access to the reports, or only have access to configuration, and so on. And this object preview is also a nice feature, because you can see a preview of your data, of your files, to make sure and double check that it's the right file you would like to restore, and that you do not restore the wrong file and then try again, and so on. I will show this. And these are all the functionalities. I will not go through this in detail, but this should give you the impression that really we cover all and every feature of these cloud services. And very often we have the question, if you do backup of Office 365, can you do backup of Teams as well? Can you do backup of OneDrive? And yes, it's everything included, you know, from your Microsoft 365 environment. And even with Teams, if you dig a little bit deeper, there are the chats and everything included into Teams, because more and more data, especially nowadays with the Corona topics where everybody is doing and using Teams, you have a lot of valuable company information in the chats now. And you have to back up these chats. Otherwise, these kind of information and discussions and forums and so on, it's all lost. Yeah, that's what I wanted to tell you in this journey in the slides. And now I would like to give you a little bit of a live demonstration, and I have prepared already our graphical user interface, and this is the SAP CSAM backup console. As some of you might know it already, it looks pretty clean and in order. And here on the left side we have the configuration menu, and under components you will find all the necessary components of your backup infrastructure, the clients you would like to back up, the disk storage where you would like to put the backup data to, the loaders, tape drives, media pools, and so on. And after configuration of these components, you can start configuring the tasks. That's something you should know already. With one task, you can back up a virtual machine of a Citrix hypervisor environment. With the next task, you back up a departition of a Windows server, and with the next you do an Oracle backup via the RMAN interface with our Oracle agent. So all these kind of tasks you can configure over here, and you can configure the migration tasks that you copy your backup data somewhere from disk to tape for compliance reasons, or you can configure the replication task. This would be necessary if you interact with an MSP. Then you have an RDS locally in your infrastructure, and the backup server is somewhere at the MSP, and then you have to replicate the data. Then you have to configure a data store over here for your local RDS, for your media server, and then you replicate the data to the backup server at the MSP. So let's see a little bit how this is configured. And under topology, you see that there's kind of a tree structure, and it's completely up to you. You can structure it according to your responsibilities or locations or departments or whatever you would like to. And maybe if it's an MSP, he would structure it according to customers. There's customer A, customer B, customer C, and therefore it's very reasonable that you can set the permissions based on the location over here. If you look at the properties, you can see the permissions, and that you can have predefined roles, and you can add roles or single users who have access to everything which is underneath this leaf over here. You have a white list, you have a black list. It's pretty similar to the Windows authorization management. And if you dig a little bit deeper, here is one server. It's a Windows server 2008, and the properties and permissions. And you see that everything is inherited from the parent, but you can create some exclusions over here, because this might be the laptop of the manager of this branch office or of this customer, and that not everybody has access to this host, so you can exclude all the others from this host. Yeah, that's how the authorization is working. let's see a little bit how the authentication is working. We go here under permission management. You can see that we have several users over here. You can create new users, and you can specify a role. If it's only a restore user, then that's someone who can only do restore, or if it's an operator, then he can only see reports and statistical graphics and so on. So it's completely up to you. And all these users can be created in SAP CSAM with our own database, or you can match with an external Active Directory or with an open LDAP or any LDAP directory. That's possible. And you see here we have some groups with some specific functionality. We have sources. There's an Active Directory, and this is the access to this Active Directory. And in our demo configuration, we have all three directories in place in parallel. That's also possible. You can also have several Active Directories, because we have realized that bigger customers not only have one Active Directory in the data center, they have only also another Active Directory at each branch office, maybe, because they are locally, they are located all over the world. Yeah, so that's how it works with the authentication, that you have to log in into our software. You have to log in into this configuration console, and you also have to log in into our web UI to see some statistics in the web UI over here. Status of the backup server, some statistics on the successful backups and failed backups, and usage of the disk storage, and license usage, versions on the backup server, the dashboard with the statistics of the successful and failed tasks. You can drill down to a client. You can watch the data which has been backed up or restored, and all these kind of statistical functionality. Yeah, so let's move down to the data stores, because I would like to show you how easy it is to have a copy of your deduplicated data in the cloud somewhere. You know, we have here a dedup storage already. Yeah, you see the deduplication ratio. That's not bad. We have a store once over here configured, a VSA configured for Catalyst access. That's the dedup ratio over here. And if you create a new data store, that's over here, then you first have to specify the device server where the storage is attached to. Just select one of the device server. They need to have installed the right package. The SAP package need to be installed there. And then you can specify the type of your disk storage. If it's path, then all the data is stored in native size on the disk storage. Or you can switch on with just one click our software deduplication over here. Yeah, and then you see that there is a new tab over here with the S3 credentials. And if you enter the S3 credentials over here, then your dedup data will be replicated to the cloud via S3 automatically. You have to do nothing. Yeah, I think it's fairly easy to configure to have a copy in the cloud via the S3 interface. That's how it works with a deduplication store. Now, if you use the store once with the Catalyst, then you click on store once, and then you see the HPE credentials, and you have to have some knowledge of the store once console, because you have to create some data stores on the store once, and the data store name over here has to match with the name you have created on the store once, and also the credentials you have created on the store once, the login, the passwords, and so on, you have to enter over here so that the backup server has access to a specific data store on the store once via the Catalyst interface. Now, if you would like to replicate this store once to the cloud, then you have to configure on the store once a cloud bank storage, and you need to configure which cloud is your target, if it's Microsoft Azure or if it's AWS, and then you need to configure a second data store in SAP. And with the new data store, you have the choice over here that it's a cloud bank storage. Then it's a cloud target, and just enter the credentials as you have configured it on the store once, and then the store once itself will automatically replicate to the cloud, and you have a copy of your data. You can restore from this store once in the cloud to another local store once in another branch office. Maybe those kind of things are possible if you have the data in the cloud. Yeah, that's how you can use these hybrid cloud interfaces within SAP Sesam. And in the next step, I would like to show you how it works with our CAPS solution, the cloud service provider application, protection application. Just let me log in. Hold on. So this is the web portal. You create a connector. You provide your Office 365 admin account so that the system has access to all your Office 365 data and can do a copy, incremental, snapshot-based copies, several copies a day into another data center, which is also replicated and then pretty safe, GDPR conform, and so on, compliant. So if we click on this connector, then you see your full Office 365 environment. And if you're familiar with the Office 365 configuration, how you navigate in the Microsoft portal, then you will see that it's pretty similar over here. You have SharePoint, you have Exchange, you have everything at hand. You can always download it. You can always provide a shared link to someone who needs temporarily access to this backup data to extract some data on its own. Because you as a backup administrator not always know exactly which data has to be restored. Then you can create a shared link and say, hey, create your own backup, do your own restore. Yeah? And there are also the sites, subsites, and everything which you need for SharePoint. We have the groups and teams over here. And we can look at maybe the demo project over here. We have the conversations, files, plans, calendar, all the structure you know from groups and teams. That's what I said about the chats, that you have the conversations, the calendars of your teams. That's all integrated into this backup. And here we have the Exchange part, the users. You select one of the users. Here is the demo user. And this user, you have the OneDrive. And there are some documents, style library templates, the documents on your OneDrive. And if you would like to restore this one, this is the preview to see if this is the right document before restoring it. I think that's pretty cool to see what's in this document already. And then you can download, fairly easy, do a download and it starts. You can see that's the download into your local download directory. You can do a restore directly into the productive Office 365 environment. You can see which versions are available. And you know, it's kind of an incremental snapshot. So a backup is only taken if something has changed to this file. Yeah? And you can go back a little bit more in history. And if you go back to users, let's click on users. Let's click on calendar, task, contacts, Outlook over here. And you see the mailboxes. You have the inbox with all the mails in the inbox. You can restore a single mail, or you can also download a complete mailbox as a PST file. That's also possible. Download it as a PST file, and then you have it locally on your computer. And so I think this kind of functionality is really cool in a web UI, fairly easy with unlimited retention, no local storage, and so on. And here you have some configuration possibilities. You can create users, and if we create a new user, you can see that there are several roles. It's very detailed. What are the permissions of these new users, and exclude permissions, and so on. So that's all possible when you create a new user, or you can create reports, audit reports. That's also important. Yeah? And you can select and filter and download all these kind of reports. If someone creates a new user or creates a new folder, it's all tracked, and it's completely compliant with these reports. And here is the job monitor, so that you know exactly when has been done a backup or restore. You can filter according to the result or the time period, and download everything. So I think this is also pretty cool functionality for doing a backup of your cloud service application like Office 365. And you should know that it's really necessary to do backup of your Office 365 environment, because what Microsoft is taking care of is only the availability of the system, that there's no hardware failure, that it's high available, or 24/7 hours. That's what Microsoft is granting. But you need to do a backup to go back in time to find a mail you have deleted 4 weeks ago. That's not available in Microsoft 365 anymore. And if you would like to change your environment, your mail environment, if you would like to keep it for 10 years for compliance reasons, and so on. So it's definitely necessary to do a backup, and Microsoft is really also telling you that you should better do a backup, because it's not their task. Okay, so far the live demonstration regarding the hybrid cloud, and the last slide is talking about our summer special offers, our promotions. And there are some really cool promotions when you change your old backup software against SAP CSAM. Then we will give you 20% additional replace discount. And you might know that in our licenses, we always include the first year maintenance, 24/7 maintenance, always, nothing else. And we will also provide the second year maintenance, including support. You can call our very competent support free of charge. And this offer is even better if you are somewhere in the public sector, administration, schools or universities. Then we will give even 25% discount if you change your environment to SAP today. Yeah, the constraints are that it's valid until 30th of September this year. Our cheap socket-based licenses, VM Essentials, are excluded, of course, because they are very cheap, and it has to be ordered via our valuable SAP partner, NETCB. Yeah, so this is the last slide of my presentation. If you need more information, and you can either contact us or me. You have my contact data already from this slide set you will get afterwards. And you can dig deeper into our wiki. And in our wiki, we have described all the configuration of our software, or you can use our homepage for customer references and so on. So Hope I see
Yes.
you again and that you have learned a lot in this session today.
Yeah, I think they really have, Klaus. For now we do have a couple of questions here with us, about
Okay,
three of
fine.
them. Yeah, and please feel free to launch a couple more if you feel as if we have not answered anything that you might still have on your mind. So the first one is, what is the pricing model for the CAPS? That is the CAPS.
Yeah, that's for the Office 365 and Salesforce backup and so on. And the pricing
Yes.
model is based on users, active users you have, and
Mm-hmm.
you will be charged on a monthly base, because in this kind of environments you have more users in the next month, and in the next month you have less users because there are people having left the company and so on. And so it's really pay as you use on a monthly base, based on active users.
Oh, I think they're quite satisfied with that answer. Thank you, Klaus. And the next one is, with your cloud to cloud solution, CAPS, is it also possible to do an on-prem backup?
um, as you have seen in my live demonstration, it is possible to do a local backup by just downloading the backup data on each level. You can download a single mail, or you can download a complete Office 365 account. On every level, you can do a download, and then you have the data on premise on your local host. And if there is a problem with the Microsoft connection, with the Microsoft cloud, then you can set up your local Office environment, install everything, and then you can use this Office 365 download. Maybe it's a PST file and you have your local Exchange installation, then you can use the PST file with Outlook and all these processes. If you need it on an automatic base, it is possible to buy an appliance. There is a specific appliance available that you can set up in your data center, and with this appliance you can extract the data from the backup cloud data center, so that in disaster recovery case nothing is available. You have a copy of the data always on premise in your data center. And currently we are evaluating the possibility of integrating this into our backup software, into SAP Sesam, so that we can access this backup cloud data center, extract the data, and do a local backup with our backup software on the backup target you have configured, disk, tape, whatever. That's something we are evaluating for our next version.
Thank you, Klaus. And then the next one is, what is your strategy regarding container cloud technology?
I guess that everybody of you knows that container technology is it's just in the phase of turning from a hype topic to a real valuable technology concept for cloud providers, I would say. And there are a lot of technologies, and in the past the containers were only meant for short-term application without any persistent data you have to back up. There was no backup necessary. But things are changing now, that you have persistent data with containers, and then you need a backup for your containers. And currently we are in direct connection with Red Hat to talk about container backup, and what are the backup scenarios, what the customers would expect to be backed up, because you do not only have to back up the persistent data, you also need to back up the templates, the template database to set up the containers and so on. There is more to be backed up, and we have to decide if we do it directly with Red Hat and integrate into OpenShift, but then it's only possible to do backup of OpenShift with Red Hat, or we can go one step below, because OpenShift is based on Kubernetes, And if we do a backup of Kubernetes, then it's more generic. It's not only for OpenShift, it's also for other cloud orchestrators if we do a backup of Kubernetes. These are the topics we are currently discussing with Red Hat, how or which is the best way to integrate it in our backup software. And we will do something with this container technology in the future, definitely.
Excellent, excellent. And the last but not least question that we have here is, which hypervisors do you support?
Oh, well, that's an interesting question because, well, if you use Veeam, for example, they can do a VMware backup. They are perfect in VMware backup. They can do Hyper-V backup, and that's it. But there are much more hypervisors out there, and we support 9 hypervisors. I've mentioned it already. If you have KVM, if you have Red Hat virtualization, if you have Proxmox out there, if you have Citrix Xen environment or XCP NG, we even support the Oracle Linux virtualization manager. So there are lots of hypervisors, and with almost every hypervisor, we support the online snapshot-based backup of the virtual machines and also the single file restore, which only mounts the backups. And I think that's a very valuable functionality with all the hypervisors. So we also see that a lot of customers are trying to set up multi-hypervisor environments. They are using VMware for their productive environments, but they want to get rid of the VMware costs for their development and QA and so environments and so on. And then they have some open source installations like KVM for development, and then they are happy if they have a backup software which can do backup of VMware as well as backup of KVM hypervisor.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you so much, Klaus, for that.
I think there was another question as well. Hendrik, I think you have the detail of that question.
Hi, Kobus. Klaus actually has answered those questions
okay.
for us.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's great.
Excellent. Well, without any further ado, and hopefully not wasting anyone else's time, we just want to thank you guys one more time for being here, taking the time out of your busy schedules on this lovely Thursday afternoon. We thank you for so much for coming out and supporting us. And please feel free to contact us directly on our sales, emailing platform, and or on our website. Please, this video will be left on our website if you need to revisit anything, in case you missed anything, or you'd like to refer more people to that. On behalf of NETCB and also SEP, I thank you for joining us today.
Yeah. Wait, Pello, before you sign off, I just need to mention on our website under the events section, there's a complete events calendar that has got our webinar events until the end of this year listed. So we have a whole series on a weekly basis. There's a new topic that we actually presenting, and I invite people to actually go and have a look at that and then join those and book for those sessions that are of interest of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kobus.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. Cheers, ladies and gentlemen. Bye-bye.